President Obama did a town hall meeting on CNN where he discussed the issue of gun reform, and he ripped the idea of a gun confiscation conspiracy, which some people on the right actually believe, and they've argued about it, and they're convinced that that's exactly what Obama's going to do. Well, he just did some executive action recently on this issue. Of course, it doesn't go as far as gun confiscation, but nonetheless, he's going to have to beat back this assertion. Let's watch.
Fair to call it a conspiracy? I mean, there's a lot of people really believe this deeply, that they just don't. They just don't trust you.
I'm sorry, Cooper. Yes, it is fair to call it a conspiracy. What are you saying? Are you suggesting that the notion that we are creating a plot to take everybody's guns away so that we can impose martial law
but there's certainly
is a conspiracy? Yes, that is a conspiracy. I would hope that you would agree with that. Is that controversial? Except on some websites around the country?
There are certainly a lot of people who just have a fundamental distrust that you do not want to go further and further and further down this road.
Look, I mean, I'm only going to be here for another year. I don't know. When would I have started on this enterprise, right? I come from the state of Illinois, which we've been talking about Chicago, but downstate Illinois is closer to Kentucky than it is to Chicago. And everybody hunts down there. And a lot of folks own guns. And so this is not like alien territory to me. Yes, it is a false notion that I believe is circulated for either political reasons or commercial reasons in order to prevent a coming together among people of goodwill to develop common sense rules that will make us safer while preserving the Second Amendment. And the notion that we can't agree on some things while not agreeing on others, and the reason for that is because, well, the president secretly wants to do X, it would mean that we'd be paralyzed about doing everything. I mean, maybe when I propose to make sure that, unsafe drugs are taken off the market, that secretly I'm trying to control the entire drug industry or take people's drugs away, but probably not. What's more likely is I just want to make sure that people are not dying by taking bad drugs.
It's so sad that we've gotten to this point because it's not like there isn't a healthy and productive conversation to be had on the issue of gun reform. I mean, is there such thing as the government going too far and being too aggressive in an anti-gun crackdown? Yes. But is there also such thing as being too extreme on the other side, where it's basically gun anarchy, and we have, for example, the ability of people to buy rocket launchers, RPGs, military-grade weaponry, Scud missiles, chemical weapons? Like, yeah, that would be too far in that direction also. I mean, everybody's in favor of some kind of weapon control or gun control. It just depends where you draw the line. Would anybody say an individual should be able to have nukes if they want it? Because I've heard the argument made that, yeah, the people should have an equal capacity to fight back against the government. So whatever the government's allowed to have, the people should be allowed to have. Well, then that means they're allowed to have thermonuclear weapons. Are you comfortable with your neighbor Steve having thermonuclear weapons? Are you comfortable, if you're a white Republican dude in Mississippi? You want to let the black people have it? Do you? Do you want to let Muslims have it? All of a sudden you're like, maybe some gun control. Yeah, all of us are in favor of gun control. It's just to what extent are you in favor of it? So there's a healthy, productive conversation to be had, but we're not having that conversation. Why? Because one side of the debate is often fucking Cuckooville. They're just flat out making shit up or buying into conspiracies that are obvious conspiracies. I mean, the Alex Jones crowd, for example, they are convinced everything is a backdoor plot for the government to take your fucking guns. Well, let me ask these guys a question. They said that after every single mass shooting. Whether it was Aaron Alexis and when he shot up a bunch of people, or whether it was Dylan Roof or Sandy Hook or any of them, after every one, there were these conspiracies, and they said, backdoor effort for the government to just come and take your guns. So, okay, so you believe that. Ready? This is how we counter it. Why haven't they done it yet? You've been saying the same thing after every mass shooting since the fucking 90s, okay? And they haven't come and taken it yet. So, you know what that does, right? It disproves the argument that you're making. And this is my whole argument against Alex Jones in general. And it's not to say he's not right on some things when he talks about the government is spying on you and they're taking away your civil liberties in many respects. That's true, and I'm with him on that. He's also against U.S. Militarism, and I agree with him on that. But the thing is, he always takes that extra step where he says, but then there's the black helicopters and the Illuminati and the Bilderberg and there's FEMA camps and the NWO is taking over everything and one world government and they're going to implement Agenda 21 now. Agenda 21, of course, bans golf courses and forces you to live in hobbit homes, literally. And my response to that would be, why hasn't it happened yet? Again, no, it's going to happen, but you've been saying that since the fucking 1990s, and it hasn't happened. Why hasn't it happened? Simple answer, you're wrong. It's not to say the establishment is right about everything. Everybody knows I'm anti-establishment. I want to get money out of politics and have a real constitutional republic and representative democracy. So that's not what this is about, okay? This is about you simply being wrong in your beliefs. If you think the government is coming to take your weapons, that is beyond comical because you can look at the bills they propose. And when it's not a bill and it's an executive action, you can look at the executive action. So, for example, when it comes to the actual gun reform they proposed, well, the first thing they spoke about was, hey, maybe we should ban assault weapons. Now, they buckled on that immediately, so they didn't get that, but they tried to ban assault weapons, they buckled. They tried to ban high-capacity magazines, they buckled on that too. But those were the strongest gun reform proposals they made. So the idea that they're going to come take your weapons, no. They showed you what their strongest proposals were, and it was from here on out. It wasn't retroactive, like, okay, let's go confiscate all the assault weapons, and let's go confiscate all the high-capacity magazines. It was from here on out. So even if they were successful in their strictest gun reform, you'd still be able to keep all your handguns, all your rifles, and all these other things. And again, then they moved to a universal background check. That was beaten back by the Republicans. And then they moved to a watered-down background check bill. That was beaten back by the Republicans. They filibustered it, and then they bragged about it, even though 90% of the American people agree we should have a universal background check. So they tell you what they want. So for you to say they're going to come confiscate weapons, you're basing that on absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. And then when people say, yeah, but he's doing the executive action. Well, hold on a second here. First of all, it's not even an executive order that he's doing. It's an executive action, which is different. An executive order is more legally binding. An executive action is not. They're basically guidelines that he would like to see the ATF put into place because it'd be more productive. And we went through them the other day. Basically what it does is it doesn't even shut the gun show loophole, which makes it so that 40% of gun purchases in the U.S. are done with no background check whatsoever. It just shrinks the gun show loophole. It says, hey, let's do more studies into gun violence, and let's try to do some more background checks by making it so that a lot of people who are private sellers, but they're not registered, that they need to register to sell guns because in reality, they're not private sellers. They make money selling guns, and they do it like a dealer, but they're skirting the laws, and they're doing it to get away with it and not have to do background checks. All the executive action does is make it so we still don't even have a universal background check system. We just have some more background checks. If you look at that and you say this is a unconstitutional, unjust crackdown on my liberty, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot.